experiences being raised by a same-sex couple, that's Anne and Bernadette and my two mums, and to tell people why marriage equality is so important for them, so that they have the option to marry, and then to tell people about why it's important for other people as well. I think what's so important for me is the ability to treat all people equally, and the decision on Friday will be, are people equal or are people not? It's not really just about lesbian and gay couples, it's about us as a society. Do we treasure equality between people or do we not? My perspective on it is twofold. Is again, there's no real reason to discriminate in that way, to allow one group of people access to civil marriage and one group of people access to the back of the bus, effectively, and saying, well, you can, it's fine, like you've got something it's good, isn't that enough? And I think that's certainly what people are arguing. People are certainly arguing civil partnership is enough for you people. And that's not my opinion. My opinion is that if we're going to have a fair and just Ireland, that what we want to have is equality for all, and that means civil marriage for lesbian and gay couples in particular. So that's on one side of it. And then the other side of it in particular for this is constitutional protection. And so I'm a little wary, so I suppose my perspective comes from living in London at the moment and having the new Conservative government there, and there's a lot of talk about getting rid of the Human Rights Act, and I just, that notion terrifies me because it's not protected in any kind of constitution because that's just not in effect in England. And so in Ireland we have the benefit of having a constitution, and it means that a government, the next government, the one after that, can't just come along and say, actually, we don't think that lesbian and gay people are worth equality, and so we'll remove civil partnership, which could very easily happen. And there would be huge uproar, but unfortunately they would still have the power to do that. And so the reason from that perspective to get it into the Constitution is to protect it in the future, so that the only way to remove it from the Constitution is by this democratic process that we're going through, this public discourse, this debate, which is a difficult one to have, but it's still a public discourse that allows us to, in a democratic fashion, decide what we should do and not just leave it up to a legislature. Is the question on Friday about children? It's not about children. It is really about whether we should let lesbian and gay people have their marriages, have their relationships recognised as marriages. There are other conversations there to be had around families, but to be honest, I gotta be honest, I've been talking about my life as a child of a same-sex couple for 10 years now, and funnily enough, I've spoken at quite a few events. I've accepted, I think, all but maybe one invitation to speak at an event. The only invitation that I turned down was because I happened to be moving house at that time. And so that's a pretty good reason to not speak at an event, and an unfortunate one. I've spoken to anyone who wants to talk to me. That's academic research. That's any journalists, any individuals. I canvass now during this referendum, and never once has anyone from any of the various groups in the No campaign asked me for my experiences and asked me for my opinions. And so I think what they're doing is scaremongering and is trying to play on the fear that people have in some ways around lesbian and gay people raising families, which is totally unfounded actually, in that I am not nearly 30 but almost 30. I have been around for that long, and my two mothers have been raising me for that long. And there are dozens of other examples of children like me. You only need to go and look at the Voices of Children report that Marriage Equality promoted a couple of years ago, which was again talking to the sons and daughters of lesbian and gay couples and asking for our experiences and finding out what the main stressors were and what the difficult parts were. The difficult parts weren't about having lesbian and gay parents. The difficult parts were the impressions that other people got about us because we had same-sex parents. And so bringing children into it is really just a red herring to draw away from the real debate. And the real debate is about the love that two people, two adults, have for each other, and whether we should recognise that. And it's really a debate about equality. And so, again, the children and everything else is mostly just a distraction from that. So what are the top 2 reasons to vote yes on Friday? The top 2 reasons are that it is good for society when we don't have inequality. That we see through plenty of types of research that equality of varying sorts is bad. So income inequality, for example, is terrible for society. It leads to societal conflict. We saw race inequality in the US continues to be a huge issue decades after the civil rights movement. And so inequality between people who have different sexualities is just as bad. And I think when you realise that, when you frame this as this is a social issue that we need to recognise and say, inequality is wrong, inequality is something that we need to fight against, equality is what we need to strive for, and let's go out and vote yes because of that. I think that's the first solid reason. I think the second solid reason is to recognise that everyone knows a lesbian or gay person, and it's, in a lot of cases, they just don't know that they do, or the person doesn't know that they do. We have for centuries discriminated against lesbian and gay people and forced them into the closet, and not recognised their sexualities, and not allowed them to recognise their own sexualities. And as a result, it's led to sort of horrific mental health problems and challenges for lesbian and gay people. And it's been really, really terrible. And if you look around and you see your family, and you see your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your cousins, maybe your children if you're a parent, or your grandchildren. I've had a couple of people who've told me about their grandchildren being gay. And you look at them and you think, well, you know, I'm able to get married, so I'm engaged at the moment, and I'm able to get married. I've been with my fiancée for 8 years. But my parents have been together for 35 years, can't. And so look at it from that perspective and think, do I want my friends and my family to have the same options that I have? That's if you're a straight person. If you're lesbian or gay, the odds are you're voting yes anyway, hopefully. But it's about that. It's about, do you want your friends and family to have the big day out, but also the rights and responsibilities that come with that recognise long-term loving relationships in a constitutional way. At this stage, it's really, it's about, if you feel that this is the right thing to do, then the only way to express that is not on Facebook, it's not on Twitter, it's not by ranting to your friends over a cup of tea or a pint. It's about going out on Friday and voting yes. That is the only way to do it.